What's up, soccer fans? Mike Guglielmi, Sons of a Pitch, Soccer Central, here to bring you MLS Cup 2021 preview. Portland Timbers, New York City FC, Saturday afternoon. This is going to be an unbelievable matchup. We're going to break it down all for you right here, right now. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. We're going to discuss a little bit about the host, Providence Park, and what to expect there. We're going to talk about keys to the game. We're going to break down position by position, see who has the edge in certain areas. We're going to talk about our players to watch. And lastly, make sure you stay tuned all the way to the end for my prediction, who I think is going to win MLS Cup 2021 on Saturday. All right, guys, all of that and more right after the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, we have got a great matchup coming up here. Two great teams, Portland Timbers, New York City. RSL couldn't make it. No underdog story here, even though Portland, a 4 seed, New York City, a 4 seed. Maybe something to that there. Maybe something to that for MLS Cup playoff action going forward. But we got to talk about where this game's going to be played. It's going to be hosted right here at Providence Park, as you can see behind me. Providence Park in Portland, what an atmosphere. This is, for the first time in history, they will be hosting MLS Cup Final, and it is well-deserved. One of the best atmospheres in MLS, period. You've got Toronto, you've got Seattle, you've got Portland, you've got some other great atmospheres in MLS, but there are very few at the top, and Providence Park is one of them. I am super excited to see what that atmosphere is going to be like by Timbers Army and the rest of the Portland fans on Saturday afternoon. It's going to be unbelievable. So we'll talk a little bit more about the atmosphere once we get into the meat of the details here. But first, a little fun fact provided by Rocky at Talking to Woods on Instagram. Go check out Rocky's page. Give him a follow on Instagram. Look, if you're looking for Portland content, check out his Instagram page. Little fun fact here, it was never designed for baseball. Everybody says this is a matchup between the baseball stadium teams, right? New York City playing at Yankee Stadium, Portland, Providence Park, they tried to play baseball there. It wasn't designed for baseball. Baseball did try and play in Providence Park, but left field was really short compared to right field because it was originally designed for Olympic track and field and semi-pro football. So there's a museum at the stadium that has, all kinds of different medals and trophies and all that kind of stuff. But it is a full-time, it is a straight-up soccer-specific stadium at this point and has been redone and upgraded to be just a soccer-specific stadium. So Providence Park, a great place. I'd love to get there one day. Rocky, I might have to come out and see you sometime, man, because it's gonna be popping off on Saturday afternoon. Can't wait for that. So make sure you guys check out Rocky's page on Instagram at Talking to Woods there for all your Portland content. Now let's get right into the keys of the game. Keys to the game here. My keys for Portland and New York City. First up, we're gonna start with Portland. They've got to use that home field advantage. Like I was just talking about with the great atmosphere in Providence Park, Portland has to take advantage of that. That means they've got to start quick. They've got to make sure they keep the crowd energized and into the game from the get-go. This is very important, especially in a cup final. Being at home is a huge advantage. They got to take advantage of that. That's my number one key to the game. Number two, they've got to press. They've got to press New York City. If you watch the Eastern Conference Final, New York City was really uncomfortable on the ball in that first half because Philadelphia really was pressing them hard. Those kids were after them at all times, and they made New York City not look like a good football team at all. So if Portland, those are my keys to the game for Portland. Make sure you take advantage of that home field advantage and also press the hell out of New York City. Make them uncomfortable so that they can't get in to working the ball how they want to, and starting to take over the game. Now for New York City, my keys to the game for NYCFC, number one, start fast. Take that crowd out of the game. If they get out there, they're starting quick, start peppering Steve Clark in goal, then maybe we'll see a change. Sneak one past them, get an early goal there for New York City. Control that first 15 minutes of the game is always so important in any game, let alone a final when you're on the road. So start fast. That's my number one key for New York City. Number two, attack the wings. That's probably probably the weakest spot for the Timbers is those two wingbacks. Bravo is very good. Van Rankin has looked a little suspect. New York City, that's how they're going to get the ball forward, is going down the flanks. Amundsen has to have a big-time game as well. They need a good game out of Tavon Gray, young man. Is the occasion going to be too big for him? It hasn't proven to be too big so far in the playoffs. He's looked very good. But attack the wings. That's what New York City has to do. And then get that ball in to your golden boot winner, Tati Castellanos, into the middle. And Maxi Morales, Santi Rodriguez on the wings as well. It's going to be interesting to see how New York, if they're just going to strictly attack down the wings, I say that should be the game plan. Really go after those corners. So you're going to have Diego Chara in the middle, and you've got to really get after those wings, and that's going to be key for New York City. All right, so now let's talk about how these teams each got there. First up, for New York City, they got there by beating Atlanta at home. Atlanta United, man, this team had picked up some really good momentum throughout the end of the regular season, but then they just forgot to show up in New York City for that first round game. This was a blowout by New York City. 2-0 was the final score, and we had DSO and a new Wiseman in the house at that one, but Atlanta just didn't show up. They didn't play a good game there at New York City. New York City beat them down 2-0, moved on to the conference semifinal against the best team in MLS, Supporters Shield winners, record holders, all-time points record as well, New England Revolution, and New York City stuck in there on the road, played a hell of a game, ended up going to penalties, and New York City got it done, knocked out the New England Revolution, and then set up an Eastern Conference final against the Philadelphia Union. At Philadelphia, this game was a very good game. Ended up turning out to be a very good game. A lot of players out for Philly due to COVID. Apparently, they had a little COVID outbreak right before the game. It really sucked for Philly. But New England took advantage of it, and they made some great changes in the second half and really pushed those sixes forward there in James Sands and Alfredo Morales. And that really opened things up for New York City. And they end up getting the victory. They gave up the first goal, went down 1-0, but answered immediately and ended up winning the Eastern Conference. To what I would say is that curse is done now for New York City. The playoff curse, everybody said, they've never done anything in the playoffs. Well, now they've gotten to a cup final. They've won the Eastern Conference. They've gotten to MLS Cup Final. That is gone. It's over now. Done. So, New York City, that was their road to MLS Cup coming up this Saturday. Now, for Portland over in the Western Conference, they played Minnesota United. The Loons came into Providence Park and ended up going up early on Portland. Got the first goal, but Portland said, hey, slow down. Wait a minute. You're not doing that in our house. No way. They came back and crushed Minnesota United from that point forward to get the victory in that first round matchup. An easy win over Minnesota United. Then they traveled to Colorado on Thanksgiving Day, and the number one seed in the Western Conference, the Rapids, they pulled it off. They managed to get that number one seed, but then they couldn't hold it down. A very, very tight game on Thanksgiving Day. 0-0 going in almost to stoppage time, or it was stoppage time. I can't remember exactly when. Darren Asprilla gets the goal to win the game for Portland and beat the number one seed Colorado Rapids to set up a Western Conference final against the Cinderellas, Real Salt Lake. Salt Lake knocked out Seattle in penalties. They then went to Sporting Kansas City, beat them with a late goal by Bobby Wood, and the run was on. Cinderella was ready to take the Western Conference and continue that run, and Portland said, not in our house, not in Providence Park, and that is why that I've mentioned the atmosphere is so amazing. The key to the game is use that home field advantage, because that is something special there in Providence Park. And RSL had no answer for it whatsoever. RSL played a horrible game. It was all Portland. And there you have it. Portland wins the Western Conference, beats RSL 2-0. And here we are in MLS Cup Final between the Portland Timbers hosting New York City Football Club. All right, let's get into our position-by-position breakdown. Now, first up, before we do that, guys, make sure you guys check out our BetUS link that is in the description as well as in the comments, all right? Click that link. You're going to get a 125% sign-up bonus. If you're a sports bettor, get on it. It is unbelievable. The odds are unreal. I'll be betting a lot of prop bets in MLS Cup Final. I can already, I'm jacked up about this game. I can't wait, and I'm going to be doing a lot of betting for this one with BetUS. So take advantage of that free money, guys. Click that link, use our promo code, sign up today. It is an affiliate program, so I do make a small portion of your first deposit, but let's go get that money together. Also, check out our membership options down below. We've got all kinds of membership options. We've got our first team starter. We've got our designated player level. We've got our all-star level for the sports bettors. Check them out. Join the best community in MLS on YouTube, period. Also, check out that super thanks button, guys. That helps me with all the bills, the expenses, the computer, the graphics, all of this stuff. Help a brother out. Send on over a super thanks down below. It's the same thing as a super chat, but for uploaded videos. I'm always doing lives, but occasionally we do our uploads like this, like the FIFA uploads coming in the offseason. Check it out and be one of the first to send a super thanks over to Sons of a Pitch Soccer Central. All right, guys, position by position breakdown. First up, let's talk about the goalkeepers, all right? The goalkeepers, you've got Sean Johnson for New York City. You've got Steve Clark for Portland. Two very, very good goalies. Steve Clark, he's got the experience, right? That's what's on his side. Sean Johnson, I think he's a little bit more of an athletic keeper. I think he's a little bit better keeper than Steve Clark. So for that one, I'm going to give the edge to New York City. I think I would personally rather have Sean Johnson than Steve Clark as my goalie if I was starting up a team. And that's why I'm going with New York City having the edge for the goalkeepers. Next up, the defenders. All right, so the defense for New York City, we're going to go with the most recent that they played. And you've got Tavon Gray, has looked great. Young defender, has looked great getting forward and attacking down the wings. Maxime Chanot and Alex Callens in the middle. I'm not high on these guys. I haven't been for a very long time. They've played together for a while, last 3 or 4 years. They have done very well in these playoffs. Callens has definitely taken off from where he was just a few years ago. And I know all the New York City fans are like, Mike, you got to give it up there, man. These guys are good. Recognize. I just have a hard time with these guys. Chanot and Callens, they do make mistakes every once in a while that cost their team. And then you got Malta Amundsen on the wing as well because there's no Anton Tinnerholm. If Tinnerholm was in this game, I think that might push the edge to New York City. But those center backs, especially on the road, they've got to play a perfect game. And we'll see what happens there. But Amundsen, he's looked decent going forward. He's looked okay defensively as well. But without Tinnerholm, that is a knock for that team. And hopefully they'll be able to overcome that. Now for Portland, their defense, they've got Claudio Bravo on the left, Zuparic and Mabiala in the middle with Van Rankin on the right. Van Rankin is the weak link of this back four. Bravo has looked to be, stats-wise, one of the better left backs in all of MLS. Zuparic and Mabiala are very solid at the back. They've got the size to contend with the aerial threat of Tati Castellanos as well. They've got they're actually pretty fast for as big as those guys are. Zuparic and Mabiala have played extremely well in the playoffs and towards the end of the regular season. So that's why I'm giving the edge on the defense to the Portland Timbers. I think that the defensive four overall, those four guys are better than New York City's four. So I'm going with Portland having the edge there on the defensive side of things. Especially with Bravo, I think he's going to be key to controlling that wing play by New York City as well. Van Rankin's got to step up and play a good game as well. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes with, as I said before, one of my keys to the game for New York City is to really attack those wings. Big ups to Portland here. I give them the edge as the defense. Now, moving to the midfield. This one I've separated it out. The wings and the forwards are going to be together. So this is just your defensive central midfielders as well as your cams. For Portland, they've got Christian Paredes as well as Diego Chara. And then his brother, Jimmy Chara. That three is extremely strong. Paredes has looked very, very good as of late. And Diego Chara, nothing else needs to be said, right? I mean, you look at our regular episode last night, DSO, who we had on as a New York City fan, was saying that Diego Chara is probably the best CDM in the league. And I can't disagree there. I agree with him. Diego Chara is unbelievable. he's going to have a huge game. He's going to be having to sweep left and right, playing those guys off the wing, and he's got to stay out of the book early. Don't want to pick up an early yellow card, but Chara and his brother Jimmy, man, this guy is on fire. They link up so well together. That service from Jimmy Chara up to the wings and then out to the striker in Mora or Niezgoda, it's going to be really important. The midfield of Portland looks really good. Now, for New York City, they've got a midfield that consists of James Sands, Alfredo Morales, and Maxi Morales. Maxi Morales, enough said. The guy is 34 years old, but he's still pulling the strings, still looking really good for New York City. James Sands and Alfredo Morales have been unbelievable in the playoffs. Alfredo Morales looks like one of the better, offensive and defensive mids in the game right now in MLS. But there's a big question mark here. James Sands might have a small injury that might keep him out of the game. That's where the depth comes in, and you're looking at possibly having Tony Rocha, who played extremely well against New England Revolution for about 20 minutes or so. But man, I'm a little nervous here for New York City if they lose James Sands. He's been an integral part of that midfield with Alfredo Morales. So for me, I'm going to give the edge to Portland here in the midfield. It's tight. This is a very, very tight matchup. I looked at the draw. I was actually going to give it as a dead even draw here between New York City and with Portland. But once the news about James Sands started coming out and that he might not be able to start, that kind of changes things up for me in that piece. So I'm going with Portland to have the edge with the midfielders. All right, so let's move it on to the offense, the wingers and the forwards. Let's start with New York City. Medina and Santi Rodriguez on the wings, with Tati Castellanos, Mr. Golden Boot winner, up top for New York City. Medina, question marks. We all know it. He's had some rough games. He's looked bad out there at times. Very skilled player, very good player. If he's on, he's a very good winger. When he's not on, which happens too much, I think, and that's probably why a lot of New York City fans are like, get him out of there. Hopefully he has a good game for the New York City, for New York City's sake. But Santi Rodriguez has been absolutely on fire during these playoffs, looking great. I don't know if it's the blonde hair or what it is, but this guy is looking really good. And then, enough said with Tati Castellanos. The guy is the Golden Boot winner for a reason. He's had an unbelievable season. They missed him terribly against Philadelphia, and he's back now, thank God, from that red card suspension from the New England game. Now for Portland, they've got Moreno, Loria, and Felipe Mora up top. Moreno and Loria on the wings, not the best. Moreno looks good. He's got that speed, a very good young player. But I don't know, man. When you put him up against some of those other wingers there for New York City, it's not quite good enough. Same thing with Loria. And then the striker, Felipe Mora. Very good striker. He gets a lot of garbage-type goals, is like what I like to call him. But it doesn't matter because they're still goals. They still hit the back of the net, so it doesn't matter how you get them. It may not be pretty as long as they hit the back of the net. And Mora does that. You also have the backup Niezgoda, but this matchup with the strikers, it's hard to go any other way than New York City. My pick is New York City. They've got the better wingers. They've got the better striker. You've got the Golden Boot winner on your team. You have to have the little green check mark next to your name in that category, period. That is, to me, that is key. And I'll tell you, I would love to have Tati Castellanos on my lineup going into a final, especially coming off a little bit of rest because he was suspended for that Eastern Conference final. Now, let's talk about our players to watch, and then we're going to get into predictions. All right, players to watch. My one player to watch for Portland, it would be Sebastian Blanco, but he's not. It's not 100% if he's going to start or not. They didn't have to use him against RSL in the Western Conference Final, so that helps. That may help his cause for starting, but I can't pick a player to watch if I don't know he's going to be in the starting lineup. I do know that Jimmy Chara is going to be in the starting lineup for Portland. And Jimmy Chara is going to be absolutely integral to the success of Portland working down the middle and attacking those center backs of Callens and Chanot. Diego Chara is very important as well because defensively he's got to really slow down and stymie that New York City attack, especially shifting out to the sides because I have a feeling New York City is going to go out to the wings. But Jimmy Chara is my player to watch for Portland because They're going to need him to link up to Felipe Mora as well as those wingers and possibly even score a goal himself and get forward himself. Chara has looked very, very good in the playoffs this whole season. Ever since he's come to Portland, he has been top-notch. He's my player to watch for the Portland Timbers. Big time. New York City FC. Who else but Tati Castellanos, right? That's it. The man is the Golden Boot winner. He needs to score goals. If NYCFC wants to win this matchup, Tati Castellano has to get on the score sheet. Yes, they have a lot of good backups there. You've got, Talismano coming off the bench. You got some other good pieces for New York City, but Tati Castellanos is key. He is going to make a big difference up top, especially like DSO was saying, his defensive play is going to be very important when he's going up against those center backs when they're trying to build that possession out of the back as well. Tati Castellanos, he won the Golden Boot, 19 goals on the season. It's going to be imperative for him to score a goal. He is my player to watch for New York City. Can he disrupt that defense? Can he get the service in from the wings? Will he get service from the middle too if New York City decides to go more centrally? Tati Castellanos, very important player to watch for New York City. My player to watch here in this one. All right, guys, that takes us to what you all have been waiting for. My predictions. Now, before we get into that, guys, smash that like button down below as well. Please share this video. Tell your friends about Sons of a Pitch, Soccer Central. If you're an MLS fan, you have to be. You're watching this video, right? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on that bell so you don't miss any of our awesome soccer content, whether that's regular podcast episodes, live stream reactions, whether that's our FIFA videos coming up, picks and predictions, all that kind of stuff. Make sure you get on it. Now, as far as a prediction for this matchup, this is going to be a hell of a game. I can't wait for this matchup. As soon as Portland won the Western Conference Final, I figured it was going to be New York City that was going to beat Philadelphia, and I cannot wait for this game. It is extremely evenly matched. The fact that it's in Portland gives Portland the edge because that home field advantage is so important in finals. But man, oh man, what an even matchup across the field. Yeah, we just broke down the positions, the goalkeepers. New York, I gave the edge there, but it's tight. The defenders, I gave the edge to Portland, but it's tight. The midfield, same thing. Almost basically a draw without the news of James Sands, right? These teams are very evenly matched, and it shows. They're both 4 seeds in their conferences. These teams, I think this would be a shootout type of game if it was in the regular season. But games in finals are always, always tight. And for me, this is going to be another tight game. And I have a hard time with this matchup. I have been going back and forth on how I'm going to pick. I did say during the New England Revolution and New York City game on our live stream reaction that I felt the winner of that game was going to go on to win MLS Cup. I have to stick with that. I think that New York City is a team of destiny right now. I think they're going to get their first MLS Cup, their first real silverware. Yeah, they just won Eastern Conference Final. But I want to go Portland at home because this team is unbelievable at home. They very rarely lose. Ever since that loss to Seattle when they got beat down 6-2 by Seattle. Yeah, Brian, you were there. You remember. They've been a completely different team. And Portland is going to be very, very tough to beat at home. But if anybody's going to do it, I can see New York City getting it done. And that's why I'm making my pick. I've got New York City to lift MLS Cup 2021 on the road in front of Timbers Army. New York City, congratulations. I think you're going to lift the cup and get it done. My prediction in this one, I'm going to go at 2-1 New York City. They get it done. That gives us the over 2.5. And prop bets, I'm going to be doing a lot of prop betting coming up. But there's my prediction. New York City, your MLS Cup champions. Hopefully I don't put the jinx on you guys, all right? Hopefully I don't put the jinx on you New York City fans. I'm sure the Portland fans are rejoicing that I picked New York City here. But this game is going to be unbelievable to watch. And make sure you are here with us on Saturday afternoon, hanging out in the chat. We've got Rocky from Talking to Woods on Instagram. He's going to be at the stadium. He's going to the game. He's going to be sending us pictures from the game for a live stream reaction. He'll also be repping a beautiful Sons of a Pitch soccer t-shirt as well. And guys, it's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you're there in the chat hanging out with us. And there you go. There's my predictions. There's my preview for MLS Cup Final 2021. Thanks for watching this all the way to the end. If you haven't done it yet, smash that like button. Share this video to your friends. And we'll see you guys on Saturday for the big game. Have a good one.